Hi folks, I'm Carl and welcome back to my channel. So we've been discussing LMIA jobs and how to search for these jobs and how to apply for them. Well, in today's video, we're going to be looking at why you should be extremely cautious with LMIA job offers. We'll also look at the risks of buying LMIA jobs and how that can actually affect you in Canada. And we'll also look at some of the steps Canada is taking to crack down on these job scams. So LMIA is basically an employer seeking approval from the government to be able to bring in foreign workers. That is a basic explanation that I can give for LMIA. Now, as you would have imagined, LMIA has a number of advantages for any prospective applicant. So the first one is that if you have an LMIA or if you get an LMIA job offer from a Canadian employer, you can apply for your closed work permit to come in to Canada and work for that employer. The other thing is that an LMIA job offer can actually help boost your express entry profile. So if you are in the express entry pool and you get an LMIA job offer, that can significantly boost your profile with about maybe 100 to even 200 points. And that would actually boost your express entry application as well. So LMIA has a number of advantages for any prospective applicant. So recently, the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, did a very short documentary on LMIA jobs in Canada. And it turned out that some employers are actually selling LMIA jobs to prospective applicants. There are LMIA jobs for sale on websites such as Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace. Now, for me, this is a red flag right there, okay? Now, they do not necessarily state the job type, the description and all of that. They just tell you there's an LMIA available or LMIA job offer, and then they put a price there, okay? For me, that's the red flag right there. Now, of course, there are many people that want to come into Canada, and there are many people that are quote unquote desperate to come to Canada. Now, some of these unscrupulous employers are actually taking advantage of the desperation of these prospective applicants and are charging them huge sums of money in order to give them the LMIA job offers. Now, these employers are not necessarily fake employers. They are actually genuine employers with genuine companies, genuine addresses and locations, and have legitimate LMIA approvals. However, they are just selling these LMIA job offers for huge sums to prospective applicants. Now, I am not an immigration consultant or an immigration lawyer, but most, if not all, immigration consultants and lawyers will tell you that it is not right for any employer to try to sell you an LMIA job offer. In some cases, employers are charging about $25,000 for an LMIA job offer. And in other cases, they are charging upwards of $50,000. Now, in one case, the employer actually asked for $28,000. However, there was a twist. The twist is that there was actually no job. Okay, so there are some people that have been able to secure these LMIA job offers, have been able to come in only to realize that there is actually no job. Okay, so they can't go to work. They are not making any extra income. And some of them still have the balance of that huge amount that they need to pay. Again, I'm not an immigration lawyer or immigration consultant, but most, if not all of them, will tell you that, first of all, that huge amount that you have to pay for an LMIA job offer is a serious red flag. That should raise all the alarm bells, and you should tread very, very cautiously from there. Now, one of the basic requirements of the LMIA approval for employers is that they must have a genuine job opening. So there should be a job that this foreign worker is coming to do. You know, there should be a job role or position that the foreign worker is coming in to fill. So if an employer is offering you a job offer, but you get to know that there is no actual job that you need to do, actually, that should be one of the first questions that you ask. Because if there is no actual job that you're coming to do, but you have this job offer and all of that, it raises a serious red flag. Now, this is because Canada considers this illegal, and you might be participating in an illegality. Now, what happens in most instances is that, well, the amount charged by these employers is huge, sometimes up to $50,000. So you may have to pay an installment and then pay the rest when you eventually land in Canada. So sometimes you may pay a deposit of about $4,000 or $5,000, and then when you land in Canada, you pay the rest in installments. Now, because there is no actual job, there's no actual pay. You don't have an actual wage or an actual salary that you're going to earn. But as part of the LMIA process, the employer needs to run payroll for you. So what most employers would do is they would run the balance that you owe them through a payroll system. Now, this is very problematic, and your alarm bells should be ringing by now. Because one story that I've heard of, now most of you may have already heard the story about Turtle Jack. This employee that came in with an LMIA job offer came in and realized that there was no actual job, and he had to pay the employer. So the employer calculated how much his wage would have been. And in Canada, most people are paid bi-weekly. So the employer calculated that and said, so every 2 weeks, make sure you pay me this amount of money. Okay, so quote unquote, this employee is paying himself, so they are running payroll for him and all of that, but everything is not necessarily genuine. Now, I'm not here to judge anybody, okay? If you are willing to do this, that is up to you. I am only here to present to you the risks involved, because sometimes most people will do anything and everything to get to their country of choice. But the thing is, with these advanced countries, especially with the IRCC and Canada, most things that you do now may catch up to you later. You can move from work permit to permanent residence or PR, but your PR can be revoked if anything at all, anything suspicious comes up later and IRCC is able to verify that you misrepresented yourself or you were engaged in an illegality. I know some of you would not enjoy what I'm saying, but it is just the absolute facts, okay? And it's better for you to know the risks involved. Now, one of the risks involved is that when you come in on an LMIA job offer and you get your work permit, that work permit is a closed work permit. Now, what a closed work permit means is that you are only allowed to work for that employer. And this is actually stated on your work permit, that you are only allowed to work for that employer with that work permit. If you want to change those conditions, then you may have to apply for an absolutely new work permit, okay? A completely new one, which means you need whatever the job offer and all other documents from the new employer to be able to make that change. So it is not that easy. Now, the second risk is that if there is any delay from your end regarding the payments that you need to make to this employer, then sometimes, as others have revealed, there are threats from the employer. Some will threaten you about getting you deported back to your home country and all of that. And you don't want that, as this just adds up to all the stress. Now, aside all these, some are abused psychologically, some are abused monetary-wise, as some employers or unscrupulous employers will use this as an avenue to milk you dry. Now, some others are also abused sexually. And then lastly, there's also the fear of deportation that we already talked about. So this is not just an easy process. I know some of you, like I already mentioned, are eager to come into Canada. I would always say try to come in legally and try to make things, just have patience to do things the right way. Okay, so those are some of the risks involved, and I think that these are worth paying attention to. Be careful about LMIA job offers and always stay on high alert. Now, Canada is also cracking down heavily on these LMIA jobs that are being sold and all of that. So, for instance, Canada is considering fines of up to $1 million for companies that break these rules. Canada is also looking at bans and sometimes permanent bans for employers that are engaged in this. And lastly, Canada is also considering more stringent rules before an LMIA is approved for employers. So good luck on your LMIA job search. I hope you land a good job offer that can get you to Canada. Just be careful of all the things that we've talked about. So thank you for sticking around to the very end. Please share this video with anyone you know that's also searching for LMIA jobs, so they can also be aware of the risks involved and they can be careful with LMIA job offers. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for being here, and please consider subscribing to the channel as it really helps to grow the channel. And as always, thank you so much to my returning subscribers and my many new subscribers as well. See you in the next one.